Well, hello everybody. It's another day, and we're back to talk about Ilhan Omar and the Minnesota fraud that keeps on continuing. But the funny thing is, there's just no accountability. So they had hearings today addressing the fraud, but Ilhan Omar didn't show up.
What Congresswoman Ilhan Omar knew about fraud in her state has hit a roadblock. The Minnesota Democrat was supposed to appear at a state hearing into possible connections between her and a massive fraud scandal during the pandemic. Instead, she was a no-show. News Nation has been all over this story from the very start. The program Feeding Our Future was accused of taking millions of dollars from the federal government to provide food assistance to children. 65 people have already been charged and convicted in that scandal. They took the money for themselves instead. Now, Minnesota lawmakers are trying to sort out what Congresswoman Omar knew, and if anything, they've demanded that she turn over any communications that she might have had with Feeding Our Future by May 5th. News Nation investigative correspondent Rich McHugh has more on the search for answers.
Minnesota lawmakers say Representative Ilhan Omar has ghosted them, that she did not respond to their invitation to show up for a hearing on fraud. She has not yet complied to turn over documents or communications that they have been asking for. State Representative Kristen Robbins, she's the chair of the Minnesota House Fraud Prevention and State Oversight Committee, says Omar refused to testify before the Fraud Prevention Committee, ducked reporter questions, and she authored the bill that made it possible for this fraud to happen in the first place.
She created the conditions that allowed all these bad actors to come in and bill for thousands of meals a day, a week. I mean, it was incomprehensible numbers. One little tiny restaurant serving 5,000 meals a day, 7 days a week.
Now, we first reported on that restaurant last November, the Safari restaurant, where Omar was a fixture and held campaign parties. The restaurant, which seats about 35, supposedly served 18,000 meals a day. Robbins is asking for Omar's communications, written and electronic, with the now convicted owners of that restaurant and with over a dozen people convicted in the Feeding Our Future scandal.
The American people and certainly the taxpayers of Minnesota deserve her to come and answer these questions. If she had nothing to do with it, if she had no ill intent, if she had no idea, she should come and defend that. The fact that she ghosted us, she would not even respond to multiple inquiries to, a state legislature where she used to serve. I think it shows disdain for Minnesota taxpayers that she's unwilling to even answer these questions.
Now, Robbins gave Omar a May 5th deadline to respond to their questions in writing, produce the documents and communications that they are asking for. We have reached out to Representative Ilhan Omar and asked why she didn't go to this hearing and if she's going to comply, and we have yet to hear back.
Definitely not what an innocent person would do. Now let's see how she reacts when she's cornered and she can't run from the questions.
The last time I spoke to you, you said that I was stupid for asking you about your financial disclosure, but there's some discrepancies on there. Would you like to explain that? How did you make such a big mistake on it?
I still do think you're stupid for asking me anything.
I am?
Yes.
Well, what about the American people who are wondering how you made such a big
I have
mistake?
explained to the American people.
What's the explanation?
I have given them the explanation.
Do you want to tell our viewers? Because they're
I don't want to tell you jack shit.
Oh.
How about that?
Okay.
Okay. Have a good day.
Thank you, Congresswoman.
Actually, she hasn't answered any questions. Anybody else getting tired with these super smug, ultra-liberal women in Congress who refuse to answer questions and think they could talk down to their constituents like their children? I know I am. Now, the one thing that people aren't covering today is Minnesota. Well, they passed another bill today saying that they need more money to investigate the fraud. Watch this.
It's projected that there's $9 billion of fraud leaving 14 Medicaid programs that are administered by the state government. We have people from MMB here. They oversee the fiscal operations of government and interact with all of the agencies. We have an appropriation here to give Governor Walz and his bureaucracy $2.301 million under Section 4 of the bill. We have widespread fraud in this government, Mr. Chair, and I'm just curious, Mr. Moore, how many people have lost their job due to the 14 different Medicaid programs that are leaking the taxpayers' money out the tailpipe of the car onto the pavement, rolling into the ditch here in Minnesota?
As I had mentioned earlier, I appreciate the question. I'm not in a position to speak to that here right now. I don't have an answer for you.
Mr. Chair, nobody's got answers. The governor doesn't have answers. Maybe we need the governor here, Mr. Chair. Of course, he was before Congress and he didn't provide any answers there either. It's always the runaround. The people of Minnesota want some accountability here. This is a proposal to take more tax money from the people of Minnesota to supposedly address fraud when this has been going on for 10 years in this state, certainly intensively in the last 5 or 6 years in this state. We got the Behavioral Health Administration in the Department of Human Services here in the state of Minnesota that in an audit, do you know how they responded, Mr. Chair, to the auditor? Well, you do. The auditor said, give us the data of what happened here, and the government came forward and said, oh, let me go get it. And they manufactured data, Mr. Chair. They manufactured documents out of thin air, and they gave them the legislative auditor and lied to them. This is what we have going on before us. So my frustration and my trouble with this appropriation in the bill in Section 4, Mr. Chair, is that we have a government led by a governor and his people and the agencies that aren't doing squat. They're doing nothing to control fraud in this state, and then they're coming forward and say, if we're going to control fraud, we need more money from the taxpayers. The taxpayers have timed out on this, Mr. Chair. We shouldn't be putting this appropriation in the bill. We need this government to start performing for the people of Minnesota, and it has not. And when asked how many employees, we're talking about billions and billions and billions of the people's money that are rolling out the tailpipe onto the pavement and into the ditch. And not one person has lost their job in this government. Not one piece of accountability. So what is there in this bill or in the discussion or in anything that the government can represent to us when they come before the committee here that is actually going to say, we have accountability, the buck is stopping somewhere? Because it's not. It's not stopping with the governor. We're hearing from MMB, well, I don't know. You got to bring education here. You got to bring human services here. You got to bring somebody else here because I don't know. That's what the government tells us, but they want another $2.3 million, Mr. Chair. And so they've asked for it, and you put it in the bill, and now Democrats are going to pass this bill and give them another $2.3 million when they haven't demonstrated one iota of responsibility, one iota of accountability in this government for fraud. We got an attorney general that's asking for more money, and it's in the other bill that we just passed. He hasn't prosecuted squat either. It's all been the federal government that's doing the prosecutions. All of them. Not one person's been convicted by this attorney general. Not one. And this is a bill we have before us. So that's my frustration, Mr. Chair.
That's right. You heard correctly. They want another $2.5 million to investigate. Where's all the money going? They're not investigating anything. I guess let's hear from Tom Holman.
A lot of smart people are on it. Stay tuned.
Well, I sure do hope something happens because the state's not going to do anything, so it needs to be up to the feds. Let me remind you how smug Ilhan really is.
Republicans have repeatedly stated that you committed immigration fraud. Are you at all worried about a formal investigation that could perhaps lead to your deportation?
Are you one of those people?
I don't know what that means, but are you at all concerned?
Do I look concerned?
I guess not.
Okay.
What about the Minnesota fraud hearing? You didn't show up for that. Do you think you should have?
Why should I have?
Well, it happened in your state. Don't you want to defend your position?
There were people from my state that were there.
Okay, but why not you? I mean, there's allegations that you're complicit in the fraud. Wouldn't you want to show up to
Why would
defend
there be an allegation that I'm complicit? How would I be complicit?
Well, what about Tim
Do
Walz?
you just ask stupid questions? Is this your thing?
I'm curious to get your thoughts.
No,
I mean, there's a lot of controversy around the issue. $9 billion in fraud in the state of Minnesota.
$9 billion.
You don't think so?
Really?
Yeah, and counting. Probably more, honestly. You think that's fake news or what?
That is more than half of the resources that are allocated.
Okay.
So you genuinely, like, your brain has told you that it is possible for half of the resources.
I'm just going off of what
for our public service to, like, have disappeared, is what you're saying.
countless Minnesota state representatives, whistleblowers have come
listen
forward.
to yourself, though.
I'm
Like,
trying.
just think about that for a second.
Maybe if you showed up at the hearing, you would
Just-
know that
just think
whistleblowers
about
are
that
being
for a second.
retaliated against for exposing the fraud. Why is that? Why are they being
But
tracked and
just
traced?
think about what you're asking. Who is tracing whistleblowers?
Minnesota state officials, Tim Walz, anyone who dares to speak out against the government.
Tim Walz is doing something to
Yeah,
whistleblowers?
why is Tim Walz stepping down if he's, innocent? Why isn't he running for re-election?
Because he's had 8 years to serve as our great governor.
He was going to be vice president of the United States if Kamala
Yes,
won.
and he would have been an excellent vice president.
now he's stepping
much
down.
better than the person we have right now.
And now he's stepping down as governor. Any comment on that? You don't think he's maybe complicit?
He is focusing on trying to make sure our state remains great. All right, have a nice day.
Thank you. You too.
Please read.
Yep, more smugness from her. I wonder why Congress only has a 10% approval rate right now. And it's not just her and the squad, it's also her members who refuse to acknowledge this, and the only thing they could talk about is Trump.
Thoughts on Ilhan Omar's financial disclosure? Does all of the scrutiny around that concern you at all, and does that warrant an official House ethics investigation?
That issue has not been brought to my attention, but we do know that Ilhan Omar, who works hard on behalf of the people that she represents in Minnesota, is constantly under attack by right-wing conspiracy theorists.
Well, what about her net worth going from 30 million to now under 100,000? Do you believe that's truly an accounting error, as she alluded to?
It's not an issue that I'm familiar with.
What about her winery that she is now dissolving from her financial disclosure?
We're working to stop this reckless war of choice in the Middle East, get the economy back on track, win this gerrymandering war that Donald Trump started that we're going to finish. It's not an issue that I've been locked in on today.
No amount of hand movements are going to get you out of this one. Just so everybody's reminded, that's the majority leader for the Democrats. And he wants to laugh in our face and tell us that he hasn't even heard about this? Outrageous. What do you guys think?